want to educate our children because we are not educated. Yes, some of us went to school, but what we were taught in school is not the same thing you're teaching this generation today. Stop sending these children home with homework every day, because when they bring it to me, I send it to father. Father will send it back to me and say he's busy. I'm also busy. I have things to do, okay? You will send children home with homework every other day, not even easy subjects or maths, and you will tell them to come and find X. Where do you expect us to start looking for this X at home? Please stop this. I don't like what I hate. We will take our time, help the children to do the homework. They'll bring it to school and you say it is wrong. If you're looking for a way to tell these children that we don't have sense, do it. Don't stop cutting corners, okay? Just imagine me sitting down to do homework with my child, and then he will take it back to school and they tell the child that the answers are not correct. How do you expect my child to be looking at me? And some of us told them how we used to take first position in class. Please, teachers, stop doing this. If you want us to come back to school and learn, please just say it. I am tired of doing this. We send these children to you so that you should teach them in a way that they'll be able to do their homework. No, every day you send them home with homework. You cannot even do history that we can easily, you send them with maths and say we should find X. I don't know where to find any X. Please stop sending these children with homework every day. If you must give them homework, give it on weekends so that we should look for some uncles and aunties that have sense to help them do it. Stop disgracing us. What is all this? Just imagine me doing homework, my child takes it to school and they tell my child that, oh, the answer is wrong. And I'm the one that helped. And then the child will bring it and say, mommy, they said it's wrong. When I've already told my child I used to be first. See, you people should stop this joke. It's not funny. I'm done. So, Mr. Principal, I am not doing any homework. I've said what I said.
Imagine helping your child do homework, and then when they reach school, they come back and they tell them that, they tell you that all the answers were wrong. I don't really think whether these children will trust you again. Anyway, of course, a good evening to you, esteemed viewer. Thank you so much for coming through. This is Family Hour. We want to appreciate you for watching us today. We are talking about something now pertaining her parents. Of course, this has been an outcry for very many parents. It all started with Honorable Betty Nambos, I remember very well, raising a concern about early last year. And it wasn't so serious. I think we didn't take it serious, but very many parents have really come out raising concerns over homework. Mrs. Adena Nankwang, a mother of two, would do anything to ensure that her children do not return home with a mound of homework each day during a work week. As a working mother with alternative morning and afternoon shifts, it's challenging to keep up with my daughter's homework during the week. Now, for her and some other parents, it's about their schedules in that day. But then we also have parents who admit that indeed the things we studied, and some people have gone for gone through adult education, probably that's why they can speak the English they speak, and now you take them into the other things, like the parent complaining. You tell them to find the X. Where are they going to find the X from at home? They send, the mother sends the child to daddy, and the daddy says, I'm busy, you go to mommy. Mommy is also, mommy also has to say that I'm busy, but now, who will help this child? After all, it is homework. What is the essence of homework? Why should a child go back with homework? Because we assume that since they come home, they come to school very early and sometimes leave a little late. When they go home, it should be time to relax. And why should they still carry homework? Is it a measure of seriousness? Is it a measure, why this homework? Those are the questions we want to get in this first part of this show. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. With us is Mr. Kyeyune Andrew, who is an educationist. And I want him to really tell us sincerely why you burden parents. But so far, good evening.
Yes, a good evening, and a good evening to all the viewers. Thank you so much for sparing time to listen and tune to Family TV, especially at this hour that we chose to educate the nation, all the other stakeholders, our children, on some of these contagious issues in the education sector. So at the end of the day, we all seem to be on the same page. Otherwise, it was out of public cry with some of this evidence that we came up with this kind of a program to at least answer most of the questions parents have out there, and they may never have a clear platform to express their dissatisfactions. Exactly. I've keenly listened to the parents' cry, and I'm sure it is just a representation of very many parents out there
of course,
who equally have the same concern.
She's one who is bold.
Yes, actually she has boldly come up to speak her mind, but I'm sure many, well, someone created a new vocabulary. We have the silent majority out there with the same concern. But as an educationist, I'm here to make it very clear to all the parents out there so that we instead embrace the question of homework. And by the way, it goes beyond homework to even holiday package. So
weekend work, holiday package.
Parents have the pain, of course not all, but some have the pain just because they have been missing this other tablet I'm yet to unleash.
Now, if I remember, in the school I went to, there used to be something called extension. It was extension. So whilst lessons were ending at 4, then those who would plan extra money would study from about 4:30 to 6, and then they give you an assignment, which you can either work from school or go home with. Yet, they expect you at school at 7 a.m. Now, I look at all this. I mean, I'm now coming to look at all this. Isn't this overburdening a young child's brain?
Well, in what the parent has said, I think I equally picked a point. We should really balance the board. I think the whole point should be on the best way of doing it, but not necessarily painting the practice of homework as a burden, because anything to do with educating your child can never be called a burden. Otherwise, the next step is you're going to call your very child a burden. Today, the education aspect is becoming a burden. Tomorrow, we shall have the health aspect. The child is sick and maybe must equally swallow tablets. I don't think if you must wake up your child to swallow medicine, it also becomes a burden. If the whole target is the well-being of a child, health-wise. And they tell you this medicine must be swallowed 3 times a day. So every time it comes to that interval, you must remind the child. I don't think the parent would really make a public outcry that it's now a burden. So when it now comes to the education aspect, it is turning out to be a burden. But
what parents say is they pay school fees. Why then should children come back to bother them with homework? Why can't teachers assist them?
By the way, homework is an invisible receipt. Actually, not even invisible, a visible receipt to the fees paid at school. Because
so is it part of accountability?
By the way, it's part of accountability. That is area number 1 that accounts for what you paid for. By the way, parents now just need to be maybe briefed about the whole value and the whole reason behind this homework. One, we as educationists came up with this idea partly to solve there are so many problems we had seen, especially what exactly happens after school, the time the children have with the parents at home, and the other vices that fall in. And as well of curbing, there's so many problems, we came in with this other tool. One, we wanted to foster, step number 1, parent-child interaction. Many parents, you realize that if we just didn't create that avenue, then you'd perhaps take a week or even more without having even a minute to check into what your child does at school. When it comes to education, parents out there, you need to understand this. By the way, in black and white, it's not only a duty or a mandate of the teacher at school, but rather we all have our roles to play. Parents think it only stops at paying fees. It's beyond paying fees. Even when you've paid fees, mama, when do you ever look at your child's progress? I give this child homework, so that you as a parent, you also look at the child's work.
But I don't know the question.
No, before you even get to know the question, by the way, at times it's not that the parent should necessarily help the child. The first task is that, are you creating that conducive environment for the child to do this work? If you can help, because we want to play the game, we want to all play our numbers. I have done my part at school. Now, when I send the child home, I'm giving this child a few numbers so that even in your presence, see how this child is faring. And by the way, you must have realized that most of these assignments or homework has a comment section for the parent out there. That comment section and even signature is not just saying, good, everything is okay. No, I want you to give me a report that whereas I observed Hannington's work or Hezron's work, I realized he's being challenged with reading. There is a challenge in writing. So teachers, I kindly beg, more light or more emphasis should be made on writing. I've realized this child is very slow or still has problems with reading. So why I am giving you that holiday work or homework, I want you to also keenly observe how the child is progressing. And point number 2, I want your child to also feel your academic input. That when I'm stuck, mommy can help me here. Now the problem will arise when the parent is not in position to find X. But I also want you to understand that even when true some parents did not go to school, all right, it's not a crime. At least we appreciate they are paying fees for their children. But we cannot base on that to say we are not going to do the right thing because there are many parents out there who didn't go to school. Otherwise, there is no development that will stop at any one point because some people didn't go to school. It would only be that if the parent is unable, by the our parents could not really help us with homework. But the parents should at least create a conducive environment to even allow the children know that from 8 to 9, they are all seated doing their work. I may not necessarily go into details of helping you out, all right? But I'll create at least a conducive environment for you to at least concentrate on your academics. Then, for those who can help, by the way, are you aware some parents in some fields are even more knowledgeable than teachers? It could be that it's a medical field. We're talking about immunizable diseases and other challenges and other preventive measures. But the mother at home is a doctor who is more knowledgeable than a teacher at school.
But you realize that the child will still argue with the mother saying that teacher told me this. So they trust the teachers.
Of course they trust us and the world knows we know it all. But that is not the truth on ground. That's why at times we also bring parents on board. It could be something to do with the say administrative structure of the country. And the parent is even a minister who is more knowledgeable. By giving some children some of this work and some tough questions, we want them to engage you. We are partly making research by involving you parents as equally stakeholders, so that at the end of the day, a child comes back with more informed ideas, with more reliable information. We base on that information to share with the entire class.
But with wrong responses. So
of course there are those who will come with wrong responses. Yes, I agree. At a certain point it can be embarrassing. But you should also know as a parent that once you have no idea on a certain aspect, then don't commit yourself. Otherwise it will be double embarrassment. The child comes with a response given by a parent, yet it is totally off. Okay? By the way, even when it is totally off, it should also be a learning point to the parent that when the child is given work, research together. And parents, let us never front this excuse of I don't have time, I come back home very tired. Yes, you're very tired, but in whatever you've really been doing that was making you tired, I think your child didn't play a role in there. You had work, a lot of work assignments at your workplace, but that was not your child making you get tired. So when it comes to your child, you say you're very tired. I think that is very unfortunate. Even God may never forgive you. We should spare, even if it's 10 minutes for your child. That is part of parenting. Parenting is not only paying fees. Now, if you're calling helping your child with homework as a burden, that is a very regrettable statement. Parent, yes, I agree you may be tired. But even when you're tired, in your work, in your day's schedule, let there be at least a 10 minutes hour or allowance for your child.
The outcry comes out of the struggles parents have to go through. You realize in this In this article in the Daily Monitor that was published on Thursday, 10th April, you realize that parents say that they've even tried to use Google, to use AI, but it's not still helpful. But now, how best should homework be? Should be a given?
Yes, precisely before we get there, I wanted to just elaborate or teach a few things to the parents. That we have already agreed that develops or the parents should create time for the child, and that inculcates a skill of time management. That even when I'm doing this and this, all the house chores, between this and this hour, 9 to 10, I'm supposed to be attending to my assignments. That is now building a sense of responsibility. Then that is the best way we prepare children for exams. Assuming tomorrow they're having exams, then we should allow them time to prepare, and the best preparation is always through the assignments or the homework. Then it also involves or improves that other skill, problem-solving skill. Because when the child comes back with homework, by the way, maybe even a topic that they have never studied, that is already a problem. And the child must now know that once there is a problem, how do I solve it? I make research, I consult. And in consulting, you'll consult the parent here or even other stakeholders home. Okay, it could even be the neighbors, by the way. It could be that your mother may not be in position, but that should now help you or learn that I should go to uncle in the neighborhood or auntie who could be more knowledgeable. So you're partly teaching the child problem solving. Then we have already said it encourages a learning environment at home where all the time children go back home and the best they know, watching cartoon, movies of all sorts. And at the end of the day, there is little time given to their academic work. By the time they report the next day or even after a week, whatever was taught has already been forgotten. So we try to keep them very busy, especially when it comes to holiday package. That is partly realizing that children would always get more spoiled, more rotten in holidays because parents don't have time. They are never at home. They are too busy. Children don't have anyone to follow them up. So for us, we close that gap by equipping them, pumping them with holiday work, so that at least out of the day's hour, they can spare some minutes into their academic concentration. So those were all the advantages that educationists at one time had to look into and provide a solution. Maybe the only concern I can give is that teachers, when giving holiday work, it cannot be that on a single day there is math, chemistry, physics, science, SST. Let it be that every day there is a particular subject being addressed with minimal numbers, maybe 10 numbers. Some of us during our time, we greatly improved through homework. Because every time we'd go home, even when we had to do the digging and the fetching of water, at least we could spare a minute. Because you know the moment you go back home without this work done, that you get back to school, there will be a punishment. So even when you would be so tired, you would at least have 10 minutes for your revision, because that was fostering revision. You're forgetting, parents, especially those that have children who are in day section, that whereas your children are at home busy playing and watching movies, there are those other children whose parents kept them in the boarding section. And all those who are in boarding section have that hour they call prep. Prep is an abbreviation of preparation. So what happens during preparation? They are doing all those assignments. They are doing a lot of work here and there. And now look at a desk scholar who does not have that hour. How do we equally cater for that? Because in a school setting, we are trying to balance the board. That is why we give them this kind of assignment. So maybe I would encourage the teachers out there, especially kindergarten teachers. A question or 2, 3 to a child would be ideal for an evening, but not 20 questions. There is reading, there is this, there is the other. So you find if you must do this work, then the whole night has to be spent. So that burdens the parents. And it should be work set within the range of what has been covered, bearing in mind that some parents may not really be knowledgeable. And as we said, we must also protect the parents from those embarrassments. And even when the child has done work and maybe the answers are not very accurate, we are not after the accuracy that the child should get 100%. We are only looking at the efforts taken to try out something. So it could be possible that the parent gave a response which may not be very accurate. We may not call it wrong, but it may not be the exact response needed. It should also be addressed in such a way that the parent is not embarrassed. More so if a parent signed that he was also part of the work being done. So I think then when it comes to these long holidays, schools have now gone ahead to even print booklets. Very many numbers in there, and at times there is even a cost attached. Yes, we agree later the teachers mark this work, revise it, and maybe they also need a soda. But it should be done in such a way that all parties seem or stand out to embrace the idea, not hurting one side. You say holiday work, 200,000. That is just holiday work before even buying any other requirements or paying fees. Now that turns to be a big pinch onto the parent. But if it's 20, 30, and the child has something to take them through the holiday, I think that is really a good idea. So parents, I beg, we perceive it in the rightful way. So, and it should not be that all the assignments are done by parents. By the way, you can guide, but allow the children do the work themselves. Parents, we only beg you, create a conducive environment. Back, if I'm to use myself as an example, we had a dining at home, dining table. And trust me, that dining table was only used for homework. Not even the exact function of the dining table. But around this time, we are all on the table. The parent would only supervise. Does not even know what you're doing. By then, you could easily do other things, but provided at least there is an hour meant for your work.
Okay.
So that would really inculcate a sense of responsibility, that even when I must do this and this, I must bathe in time, watch a movie at least if there is, but I must also have time for my work. So that is the whole point, ladies and gentlemen out there. But the whole important point that I cannot leave without re-emphasizing, holiday or homework is purely to foster interaction between the parent and the child.
The interaction has been achieved.
Yes, and also checking on the progress. You find the child is failing the same work. You assisted the child yesterday. The child is failing the same numbers.
And you tell them do corrections.
You do corrections.
You still send them back to the parent.
Yes, but that should also create, it should be a wake-up call to the parent. That how come my child is failing to pick this concept? Where is the problem? Maybe my child needs special attention. I need to come in and see maybe the teacher of math. I see my child is being challenged with especially numerical concepts. I need now to employ the teacher for special attention. That is now how the holiday work or homework is warning you all, sending a signal. Otherwise, when children excel, all parents jubilate. I've already seen, especially when PLE results are back or UCE results, every parent is really joyful. But what it takes to get there, incidentally, parents are not ready to embrace it. We all enjoy the food, but rarely do people want to be part of the kitchen activity.
Because the process is painful.
Yes, but let's embrace the fruits.
Yeah, we embrace the fruits, but the process is painful.
Yes,
it entails humiliation. I think to the parents, it is humiliation because this child, you're the mother, you're the one who has been correcting them, and like the video we watched as the program was starting, and the parent says, "We've encouraged these children because we've also." I think now that is another problem. Deceived them. You know, for us in our days, we used to perform well, and now they bring to you the homework to guide them. You guide them. They tell them the responses are wrong. Do corrections. They have to come back.
By the way, the responses may not necessarily be wrong. It could be that the approach used by a parent is not exactly what befits that age range. So the parent can easily give something even more advanced, and that may not necessarily match with what is needed. But that should not mean the parent should really feel embarrassed and maybe even ends up giving up on the idea of
But do
assisting.
schools ever have ever organize sessions to at least engage parents on such how to guide their children on homework, holiday work, weekend assignments?
Now, these are some of the things we try to address, especially during parents' meetings. We encourage them to support the children in all angles. So that even when the child comes back home, take trouble to look through their books. By the way, parents, besides even homework, it is your duty. Ask your child the books, and you also sign. I love schools that really do this, where a parent is supposed, maybe on visitation or class days, come look through the books. Now, class days or visitations perhaps maybe for those in boarding. How about the day scholars? When the boy comes back home or that girl, scan through their books, sign, and you say, no, I have realized My child has wrong spellings, has wrong diagrams. That is if you have ideas over some of these things. So if you cannot, we have even created another tool, what we are calling homework or holiday package, so that you equally participate in seeing the progress, the academic progress of the child. Otherwise, we should not completely abuse this idea. We should just look at how best to modify it.
Okay.
Yes.
And as we leave this subject, excuse me, we have another very, very pertinent subject that is really eating up, and we know this is the season. But of course, parents out there, homework is not there to embarrass you. Homework doesn't come to humiliate you. Homework has a good cause, but until you understand the good cause of homework, you can never embrace it. So let us as parents, let us go for these meetings each time they call us, because probably they are supporting us on how we can help out, how we can navigate this challenge.
Yeah, and the other thing maybe they need to understand, the advantages of homework are not for only the child. There are also 1,000 benefits to the parent, because that is the other immediate avenue to enforce or to foster communication between the parent and the teachers.
Well, noted clearly. We are taking a short commercial break. When we return, we are talking about something very, very pertinent. You don't have to miss it. Come back with us. question is, of course, we might have watched these in movies, high school movies and what, but our African schools are ready for such kind of proms? And which kind of proms should we celebrate? Mukono Diocese last year came out and issued a directive in all the Church of Uganda founded schools that no prom parties. So they wanted to get back to the traditional livers parties, and that confusion of proms and proms. I mean, what prom king and will you be my prom? All that mess. Probably they had thought of a time where we should have such a mess. It's really unfortunate that this is what we do. So a parent, you pay money, and this is what is happening. So it is a mess out there. It is a video circulating all over. But the original, I think the school posted it themselves. So whether it was for content or it was really happening, I think it is not a good sign.
Yeah.
But because as some of us are in school, we don't remember these exaggerations of prom.
Oh, yes.
Where did we lose it? You especially the point.
Yes, schools, it's very unfortunate that we have now reached this level. I remember when these prom parties were increasingly becoming an issue, I was at the forefront of condemning because I'd already foreseen dangers. I condemned this, and I'm still condemning it in the strict sense of the word, because I see we are graduating to stupidity in schools. And all this mess, school managers are entirely to blame. Although in this, even parents have a role to play. School managers are at the vanguard, at the forefront of messing up schools. Because right now it has even become competition.
Yeah.
And some school managers think it's a marketing strategy. Which school had the best prom, and maybe that is the school that should attract more learners. Otherwise, every time you say the best prom, you are indirectly saying the best stupidity, the best nudity that was exposed. It's very, very unfortunate. Otherwise,
and the parents go
the issue of prom wouldn't have been bad, but the way it's now being done. Students celebrating.
Maybe starting to from the real understanding of a prom party.
A prom party. This is a word we are borrowing that is commonly used in America, in Britain, where children, after a certain level, or say finishing a university or college course, they celebrate. It is purely celebration. And it is what we used to call, we have just given it another name. We used to call it leavers party, because you're leaving P7 to secondary, you're leaving senior 4 to A level, or you're leaving A level to university. Just like eventually we have a graduation party when you're done with a course at university or any college. So that very sense of a graduation party at these other lower levels, that is what we now call prom party, which wouldn't have been a bad idea to celebrate after 4 years of senior 4. You celebrate that we are done with this. Unfortunately, people are celebrating before even doing the papers. Otherwise, the true sense of a prom should be after results are even out. You know, I have passed. But when you look at those who are very active in these prom parties, eventually they bring the worst grades. So I take it back to the school managers, because all these things are done in a school environment.
Yeah.
Whereas parents participate in buying us suits and all these other unnecessary items, but the whole party is done, and all this nonsense is done in a school environment, supervised, by the way, painfully. You see some of these parties right from the principal, the head teacher, seated watching idiocy going on. Very, very unfortunate. Children, right from
promoting the school,
and they think. We have now developed even another vocabulary. We are giving children vibe. Vibe. Now, what started as vibe? Children dressing in any stupid way. You really see nudity at play. But teachers seem to look at it as very normal. The headmaster, your girls are naked before you, and you're calling it's their day, it's their party.
It's a one day.
Let's give them their liberty. Eventually, some of these children even sneak in drugs, alcohol, because it's their party. First of all, they are given freedom to go home, pick whatever they want. pick whatever they want, including dangerous drugs, because it's their day they are going to celebrate. We also used to have the dances that would not go beyond the 6. Today, people are dancing transnight. People are now taking it to a level of even after party. They go somewhere and they still continue with the party mood. And whatever they do outside there, it is nasty. Some of you parents may not even be aware of what happens, but I'm telling you, it is bad to the strict sense of the word. Now, in the course of these parties, things we didn't see during our time, children are now forced or they're encouraged to be in a couple setting, couple. Yes, it would be okay to have a girl to match with, all right, to sit with on dinner. Maybe some of these practices would perhaps be healthy to prepare you on even how people dine together. That wouldn't be bad. But now children are pushing it to another level of real identifying marriage partners. All the stages one
Prom
goes through.
king and prom queen.
Now, children are proposing publicly. And I want to ask you parents out there and all the school managers, do you think that kind of proposal stops at just the sake of a prom party? I mean, this is just the beginning of coupling in school. And I have had cases where children eventually conceive, and other cases of abortion. And when you investigate, it all started during the prom party. Children are given that liberty to the level of proposing publicly. Meanwhile, as they are proposing, someone is busy capturing this, and it is eventually posted. And even the name of the school is seen. I can't imagine.
It is on the school's TikTok channel.
Yes, such a thing can happen without the knowledge of the head teacher. I think the head teacher and all the administrators of such institutions really have a lot to explain to the nation. Now, after the child has proposed, you have vividly seen the girl accepting the proposal. I mean, this proposal is just not for the sake of sitting together or marching together that day. It is only a proposal that even after the party, we have become maybe husband and wife. By the way, I'm worried. Very soon we are going to see prom parties having priests and reverends for these children to officially celebrate or seal their marriages.
God forbid.
Because it has started with a proposal.
But we've also seen those coming in wedding
Now,
gowns and
others, parents have pushed it to a level that now prom parties become a moment of showing off who is the richest child. By the way, false showing off. The parents are helping children hire very expensive vehicles. In a school setting, the first thing we are creating and promoting is uniformity. That's why in a school, whether you're coming from the president's home, minister's home, we all put on school uniform. Step number 1, to promote unity and uniformity. Point number 2, we all sit in the same classroom, sleep in the same dormitory, eat the same food, irrespective of your background. Now here is what happens during prom parties. Parents are helping their children hire, and you see really, this is living imaginative life, false life. It is a vehicle hired. Well, no, you cannot afford it home. You don't have it at home, but you're forcing yourself to hire. I don't know, to impress who? Now, there are those children who cannot afford. So there is already social misfit created in. There are those who cannot afford this fancy life. And for that case, on such day, they cannot be part of the celebration. Then, the attires, it has gone, yes, I wouldn't mind buying your child a smart suit. That is okay. But now it has gone to a level, changing like 4 or 5 times. There is this parent who can squeeze himself to secure a child a suit for that day. But now the child is demanding, they are drawing budgets for these parties that are bigger than even the tune of school fees. I need 5 suits. I need 5 pairs of shoes. Besides, I am the prom queen. I'm supposed to pay 2 million because I'm the prom king. They have created all those fancy titles. You find on a party day, there are those semi-gods that are celebrated. They pay a special amount. If your child was voted as the prom king, but you cannot afford this amount, by the way, even if you can afford, is it really called for? When you provide all that fancy life that is false, at the end of the day, when the child asks for 2 million and you cannot afford, the next thing you'll hear, the child has committed suicide. So parents, let us not over-exaggerate certain things. Let us not create a false life and a false impression to the parents, to the children. I don't think there is any created competition in schools we are trying to create certain uncalled for competition.
Building memories for the learner, because a parent would say, after all, they have gone through a lot from senior
yes,
one.
Yes, they have gone through a lot. That's why we are creating.
This is a one day.
Yeah, it's a one day, I agree, but let it remain within the boundaries of common sense. Otherwise, we had in a certain school a year ago a child whose parent hired a helicopter. Now it comes to giving of success cards. All this nonsense begins here, but it translates into that other hour of giving success cards that come in all sorts of forms. It is now beyond an ordinary card that would really express wishes from a parent. Now people are bringing all sorts of money, all sorts of gifts. I've seen parents, actually there is a school where a parent brought a car in form of a success card. Now you wonder, will this child really concentrate to do exams?
They came out and said
it
was for content, that the girl was an ambassador of some...
Well, I don't care what the girl was doing, but it was totally uncalled for. So it all started with just a small success card. Now we are exaggerating it to other bigger things. Eventually, we shall see cards being donated in form of success cards. So parents, let us really keep within boundaries of common sense. And school administrators, help us set clear regulations. I know you're now competing. The school that has the biggest vibe that was seen everywhere on social media will attract children maybe the next year. I want to say this is total destitute of common sense. Now, our children have gone into proposing. Children are being given special hours, dinner time. After the day's party, now there is dinner time. You find parties are going beyond midnight. Children are celebrating. Now after that, there is this other nonsense. A full week is set aside for children to go back home to pick party dresses. But do you know how many children don't reach home? Then even after they have come back, a few that come back to celebrate these parties, after these parties that are now taking even more than 24 hours, there is still another week set. They are returning the clothes they borrowed or hired anywhere. Now, 2 weeks, and in the process, there are those who never reach home. Parents and teachers, where are we heading? What are we promoting in schools?
There is a school, still, I think it was last year, that suspended the candidates simply because the school had organized a prom party or leavers party, whatever they had organized for them. And so the students decided to go to one of the fancy hotels around, and they had
another full blast
in that hotel.
And in the process, they are hiring rooms. But this is what I didn't want to mention, but you have provoked me into mentioning this. Those extended parties, children are hiring places. They hire lodges. Of course, after this proposal that you have all seen, it does not stop at that, but they go into an extra mile of hiring lodges. I just can't mention what is done there. At least that is obvious to everyone.
No, but this case is when the students went to this other venue, of course the school suspended all of them, and the parents came out and said, why would you? They were not interested in what you organized for them. So how are schools going to fight this?
The schools
yet it is
still
also
have powers. By the way, that's why I said 80% of this mess, school managers, school directors, school head teachers are greatly accountable. I don't think there is anything they can ever come up to say in public to defend this nonsense. Otherwise, it is, look at these historical schools. They have a way how they design. There would be prom parties. By the way, it could be in form of a prayer. After prayer, where sometimes even parents are invited. After that, there is an executive dinner and maybe a dance for a few hours, and it ends there. The next day, back to academics. If they want parties, let them celebrate the parties after results are out. And even when results are out, let the celebration still be within boundaries of common sense. Ugandans were very good at forgetting. But not more than 4 years ago, we had children of a certain school in Luwero. After results were released, they so much jubilated, and I think parents gave them their car, to go and pick their results. They collected their friends around. They packed themselves in a car. But trust me, they did not even reach school. If they reached school, they did not reach home safely. They got a terrible accident, and I think most of, if not, they all perished. It was very absurd. But where does the mess come from? Permissive parents. The child has not even yet mastered any skills of driving, but because results are out and the child must show off, you give them the car. Another child knocked a fellow student within the school premises. The parent had given them a car to purposely show off. Parents, let's really teach children how to fish, not giving them the fish. Let's teach children how to earn, not how to spend. So, if the child has not yet reached a level of driving, then just teach the child how to work harder to secure themselves cars. But this business of showing off, parents, teachers, you have allowed, administrators, you have allowed children bring all sorts of cars in school purposely to show off. What we are calling prom is a showing off moment. But my pain is not all children in school can afford this. So your child who cannot be part of this is going to be a social misfit, is going to feel the stress. The child will begin now regretting as if as the wrong parents. It's very, very unfortunate.
The season is on, and very soon we are going. Some have already started. Yeah, I know. I've where my sister studies from, our last born. Theirs is already done. It was in the middle of the term, and of course you hear others are also planning theirs in holiday and maybe early second term. But as you are an educationist who is into the field, you see what happens and all that, and with experience, how should an ideal prom party be organized?
A prom party, step number one, we need to understand what we are exactly celebrating.
Okay.
We are celebrating the God that has helped us study from senior 1 to senior 4. Because not whoever you started with senior 1 has successfully reached the level of senior 4. Not whoever you started with P1 has successfully reached the level of P7 or even the level of senior 6. That is why it becomes very important on such a day to give glory to God. We are thanking God who has enabled us get to that level. And two, we are equally thanking God to see us sail successfully through the remaining trial moment of exams. That should be point number one on this celebration. Thanking God in whichever form. If it's a Muslim school, we are having our dua prayers. If it is a Christian school, we are having every other designed form of prayer first. Then two, we are having our teachers speak to us, congratulate us, all right, and still encourage us to face the remaining days with courage and confidence, and just to instill that other spirit that we are going to emerge victorious. So I expect that moment of words of encouragement from the parents, in this case the teachers, all right, and maybe the administrators. Then, because it's their day, we are having dinner. Definitely there is eating and dancing in a way that is better than usual meals. On such a day, we are expected to at least have special meals. Okay? Then, we later have a dance, which dance should also be strictly monitored by teachers. Why? Children use that moment of a dance to do all sorts of stupid things. But remember, this is not a discotheque. This is not a club. This is a school. Everything done in a school is done within boundaries of common sense. I wouldn't expect a dance that goes past midnight. 10 in the night. Who is there to supervise what is taking place? And you find all teachers are seated outside. It is their day. And a lot that I wouldn't have even mentioned here takes place in those dance halls. So let that dance stop within the normal hours that can easily be monitored by school authorities. Remember, in some schools, we even have day scholars who should really walk home early enough. Otherwise, you find day scholars on such days, they're even sleeping at school because the dance ended late in the night. Others risk to move back home, and there are so many dangers on the way. Then, if the child must have a special attire for that day, which is okay to have a special attire for that day, to dress like really somebody celebrating. Why should you send my daughter or son back home This child is going to almost travel 10, 15 kilometers on the vote of picking a dress. By the way, 10 years ago, in a certain school in Entebbe, a child was knocked down by a speed car. And this child had gone back to pick the party dresses. A parent, bring that dress at school. Otherwise, even not even 10 years ago, I think there is a school where 2 kids were knocked. They were on a border, going back home to pick prom dresses. And they were knocked down. It was very unfortunate. The rest didn't celebrate that party in that school. They were really mourning the death of their fellows. But why should schools get into such trouble? Because children are being sent back home to pick dresses. Let parents bring these dresses at school. And once the party is done, either trust the dresses with the matrons, or if you can pick them back. Otherwise, I'm looking at this candidate who is about to sit exams, but is on transit, moving. Which reason? Picking clothes, taking them back. It is very, very unfortunate. Then schools should also set it within limits. Otherwise, they are over-exaggerating the decorations, the tents and what. And at the end of the day, you find a child must pay 500,000.
Mr. Kyeyune, give us your closing remarks as we wind up.
So, thank you so much for this kind of discussion. It's an eye-opener, and I still strongly call upon fellow educationists. Let us not mess the country. Let us not mislead the children and the generations to come. Let us do the right thing. Let prom parties keep within boundaries of common sense. Let them keep within school. Let it be a simple, meaningful party, without this nonsense of children proposing to one another, looking for wives in form of a party, and the follow-ups they do. Because this was officially launching coupling in school. It is very unfortunate. Yes, I agree. Parents at times buy whatever you have requested them to buy. They have a role to play in this, but I think that school managers, you have taken this too far. Today we are seeing a child proposing. Tomorrow we shall see babies born as a result of prom parties. Let us not push this beyond where it has reached. Others are coming in helicopters. Others are hiring all sorts of vehicles. Where are we heading? Let these remain simple parties in school. Parties are okay, but the level at which you're organizing them, school managers, this is not what the educational standards should be. And I'm calling upon all top managers, right from the Ministry of Education, to step in, supervisors of the education system. We are getting out of hand when it comes to prom parties. And this is the season. Let us open our eyes. Let us check on schools that are pushing this beyond the required levels. Otherwise, I really thank you so much. I am Kyeyune Andrew, an educationist, a counselor. I dedicated my life to teaching and raising a morally upright generation. I speak to school managers, teachers in form of capacity building, career guidance. I do it to the children across all classes, boys and girls, depending on whichever age range. We have packages for them. Feel free to always call in for my services on 0776 68 1566, 0776 68 1566. I wish you the very best of the night. Let us keep in one accord to raise a morally upright generation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kyeyune. And to your viewer, we are grateful that you started with us. We've come to the end of today's edition of Family Hour. Tomorrow is a Tuesday. We shall be discussing health. Edwin Austin Mkalazi is my name. I've worked with Didmas and Jonan. From the entire team, we wish you a blessed night.